Okay, November 12th, 1988, a week after Brandy had turned just 14 years old, her body was found um, under an abandoned house in Coal Hill, here in Arkansas. Um, she had been shot once in the forehead, just above her right eye, and no one has been charged for her murder. They spoke with several people at the time, and they have had the same suspect now for over 34 years. But they say there's not enough evidence to prosecute. They don't want to take him to trial unless they're sure they can get a conviction. The suspect and his family moved to another state not long after Brandy was killed. And I don't know how long it's been since they spoke with him. I know that they do not consider this a cold case because they are supposedly still working on it. I have filed Freedom of Information 2 or 3 times, and they've always denied me, stating that it is an ongoing case, that there's never any results in any of the DNA testing or anything like that they keep telling me that they are doing. As a matter of fact, they won't let me know anything. They won't even return my calls. So, in February of 2020 is when I decided to go ahead and start a Facebook page, Justice for Brandy Hutchins, because by then it was clear to me that they weren't going to do anything. It had, as far as I knew, basically been forgotten. Brandy was my cousin. I was 9 years older than her. When Brandy was born, she was like the first baby that we had been around, and I just took to Brandy. You know, it was like almost like she was a baby doll that I could play with. And so I was always very protective of her. But she did have a pretty rough home life. And she would get into trouble a lot. And she was, you know, doing things that she probably shouldn't have been doing a lot of times. Her mother was living in Iowa when she was murdered. They had moved out there, her mom, her dad, and her with some friends. And when they were living out there, her mother started seeing another man and told Brandy's dad that she couldn't take care of her, that he needed to take her and, you know, just take care of her. So they moved back to Arkansas. And him not having any money or a job or anything at the time, they moved in with his 2 brothers. They were bachelors, and they lived in a single-wide 2-bedroom trailer house. And so it was 3 grown men and Brandy. And so she was kind of tossed about here and there. She actually lived with me for a little while, not a long time. But basically she was just wherever, because there wasn't much room for her at the house. And so she stayed with friends or just wherever. And she, like I said, she had a lot of behavior issues. Her dad really couldn't do much with her. She was very strong-willed. And whatever Brandy got in her mind that she wanted to do is what Brandy would end up doing. Nobody was going to tell her no. And I think a lot of that stemmed from the fact that she did have a rough home life. She just, I think, wanted to be loved and felt still loved and wanted and appreciated. And I think that's what got her into a lot of trouble, was that she was looking for that kind of attention and affection in the wrong places.
Do you think that some of that strong-willedness came from, like, her mom letting her do what she wanted to do so she didn't have to deal with her when she lived with her mom?
I think so. I absolutely do. And her mom, I don't think Brandy really knew what to expect from her mom. At times, her mother was very doting on Brandy, and at other times she was not really nice to Brandy. She was very strict on Brandy, and some would probably say mean to Brandy.
Mm.
And then, of course, once, her mother abandoned her, basically, it was all that her dad could do to contain her at all. Mother abandoned her, basically. It was all that her dad could do to contain her at all when they came back down here.
So when she lived with her dad and she was kind of doing what she wanted to do, living in a small trailer and how was life with her dad, though? Did he impose rules on her?
I don't think so, because honestly, I think it was probably easier on him when Brandy, this is terrible to say, but I think it was probably easier on him when Brandy wasn't there, because, like I said, there was 3 grown men that lived there, and now all 3 of these are my uncles. These men are my mother's siblings. One of them was developmentally disabled, and the other one, he liked to drink a lot on the weekends when he wasn't working, and they did they complained too and about Brandy a lot, and I think it was just easier on all of them when Brandy was with friends or whatever. And I think that's why she stayed gone a lot, is because they complained a lot about her.
Mm-hmm. So she didn't really feel welcome.
Right, because she was so strong-willed and she was very determined that she was going to get her way once she made up her mind that she wanted something.
Right.
She'd been in a couple of different children's homes over the years, and she was actually not in school at the time. She was waiting placement on a home at the time of her murder.
So what was the process then? Like, if she was going to go into a home, then what? Was she just going to go somewhere and stay, like, permanently or temporarily?
It had always been temporarily, and I'm sure it would have been again. I know they would get her up there, and a lot of it was because she didn't go to school like she should have. Mm-hmm. And they would get her wherever she was going and, get her in some therapy and things like that, and then let her come home and hope for the best. But it never worked out. I have thought through the years that, of course, back then, 34 years ago, things weren't looked at the way they are now. And I think that Brandy may have had some kind of behavior disorder, and oppositional defiant disorder really comes to mind, because she was going to do whatever she wanted to do at the time.
Right.
And I think that's why the week leading up to her murder, she had been with a friend, like Sunday through Wednesday. And that Wednesday, her dad went to this friend's house and picked her up. And the friend that she was with was only 15 years old, but she was married and pregnant at the time. There's just so much to this story. So the friends have stated to me that Brandy used some of her urine to get a positive pregnancy test. And, I don't know, baby. And she was supposedly going to tell her boyfriend that weekend that she was pregnant. So that Wednesday, once he picked her up, she told him that there was going to be a birthday party the next day, which would have been on a Thursday for her because she had just turned 14 a few days before. He told her no, he wasn't taking her to the birthday party because it was going to be in this abandoned house. And so, of course, she kept on, and he eventually took her up there to the house. When they got there, there was nobody there, and he told her he was leaving her there. And, of course, again, nothing doing, but he, she was going to have her way, so he ended up leaving her there at this abandoned house by herself. There was nobody else there. She pleaded for him to leave her there, saying that they would show up. Her friends would show up. And that was the last time he saw her alive. I have yet to find out who these friends were or if there was actually a party, which I don't think there was because I haven't been able to find anyone that was at this party or intended to go to this party or even heard of this party. So I think it was a setup from the get-go. Somebody wanted Brandy up there by herself for whatever reason. I suppose it was to kill her. Like I said, there's just so much to this story. So in the house, some hunters that were out deer hunting found Brandy's body underneath the house and called authorities, and they came, of course, and investigated. But inside the house, there were devil-worshipping signs, like somebody, there was 666, there was a pentagram. I didn't see inside the house. I never went up there. Several people that I know did go up there.
And this is back at and this is back at a time whenever that was like a really big deal, something that really scared people.
Right. So that, of course, started everybody thinking that, maybe she was sacrificed, or that it had something to do with devil worship. Now, I don't think it did, and neither does anybody else, really. But I have been told that her boyfriend, and I say boyfriend, which I'm using that term very loosely because I don't think they were actually a couple. I think she liked him, she had a crush on him, and because I know that he did have, but I have been told that her boyfriend, and I say boyfriend, which I'm using that term very loosely because I don't think they were actually a couple. I think she liked him, she had a crush on him, and because I know that he did have another girlfriend at the time, but she wasn't allowed to go anywhere with him. So I'm thinking, maybe...
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I'm sorry?
I was going to ask, was he the same age as her?
No, he was about 3 years older than her, I think.
So around 17.
I think
16, 17.
Yeah, I think he was like 17 at the time. But I think he used Brandy probably for sex. If I'm just going to be honest. Because, Brandy was going to tell him she was pregnant, and if he was going to believe her, of course, they had to have had sex. But I've also heard that his mother did not like Brandy, that they had had a fight, and she had told Brandy that if she ever came back to her house, that she would kill her.
Wow.
You just hear so many different things.
So you've never found anybody that said that they went to the party. Do you know how she found out that there was going to be a supposed party?
Okay, I asked the detective, so how did she even know that there was supposed to be a party? And he said it was written on just a small piece of paper. They found it inside her purse, which was on the porch of the old house. And it just basically said something along the lines of, meet me at the old house. That's all I know. And I also asked the detective if they had done a handwriting analysis. And he said they had, but it didn't show anything. So, all of these tests.
But at this point in time, couldn't they, if they really wanted to, do a DNA test on the paper? Is that something that could be done, possibly? I mean, now they get DNA off of everything, right?
Well, yes, and I, as a matter of fact, was speaking with someone today that is a retired private investigator, and I was asking him, because, they can even, he told me that her boyfriend had been arrested, but it wasn't anything that would require his DNA to be collected. And that's why they hadn't had a hit on it, because there's been several people that they've questioned, at least two more that they've questioned, and they have been in prison. So they say that there has not been a hit on her DNA. And I asked them just today, I said, well, you see all the time that they go and collect trash from people and do their DNA testing according to that. Right. And he said, no, that's just very rare, that doesn't really happen. Well, it happened in the Idaho case.
It happened in the Golden State Killer case, too.
Right. I think, and this just leads me further to believe that if they really wanted to solve this thing, they could. They're not willing to put forth the effort that it takes. I have questioned, I have emailed, I have texted the special detective with the state police that is over her case. I can't tell you how many times without a response. He has been to my house twice in the last couple of years, and we had a pretty good rapport there for a while. Now he won't answer me at all. And I don't know why. It's just very unprofessional.
Absolutely.
They won't tell me anything. It used to be that if I wanted to know something, I'd have to contact them. But now, even when I try to contact them, they won't tell me anything. So I don't really know where to turn. They say they're working on it, but they won't tell me anything. What else am I supposed to think? Because, they're not working on it.
So what are you hoping to achieve? Are you just hoping for an arrest to be made in her case? I mean, obviously, after all these years.
Right. She was a child when she was killed. She was murdered. She was shot, between the eyes. And I don't intend to give up until there is an arrest or I have exhausted everything that I can think of. She was, and I hate to say this because it sounds so terrible, but to me, Brandy was like a disposable child because she was basically a nobody in this town. She'd been in trouble. She was in people's way. People didn't know her like I did. And I'm not saying I knew everything about Brandy because it'd been a little while since I'd seen her before she died. But I was absolutely devastated when I found out she'd been killed. I can remember standing against the wall and hearing that news and just collapsing. You know, and I've always felt like I should have been there for her if I had been able to do more. And of course it bothers her dad. He's still alive. He's, you know, pretty feeble. He's up in his 70s now. And he thinks about it every day, every single day. I went to his house about a week and a half ago and talked to him for a little bit. And he gave me a birthday card that her mother had sent her for her 14th birthday. He's held on to that thing for over 34 years, you know, and he gave it to me, which tells me, you know, that maybe he's kind of scared of what's fixing to happen to him, so he's trying to, you know, give some of this stuff to somebody that'll do something with it.
Right. So do you
know? They say they know who killed her, but they won't do anything about it. The prosecutor, there's been at least 4 prosecutors since she was since she was killed, and they say that they don't have enough evidence. Well, if that many law enforcement officials believe that believe in the same person as being the suspect, I would think that a jury would also think that. And I know you have to have evidence, and I know it's circumstantial evidence, but number one, why did they let him leave? If he was a suspect, why did they let him go to another state?
Right.
I have all these questions that I would like answered, but I can't get them answered. I don't.
So is Jeff Phillips the current prosecutor that you've spoke to about her case?
Yeah, Jeff Phillips.
And his response has just been, there's not enough evidence to do anything with.
Right.
I mean, it seems like they could...
prosecutors don't want to lose, you know.
Not that one for sure. But it seems like they could send off some of that stuff for DNA testing. I mean, it's been all of these years. When's the last time that they tried to have stuff tested? I mean, think of how far things have came in the last 34 years.
Right. Now, I do know that it was all, you know, I think it was pretty much a cold case up until 2008. And they had some kind of new evidence. I haven't been privy to what it was. And they started investigating again. And then I think that kind of just died off. But they have told me that within the last 2 years, they have submitted new evidence. I'm sure you're aware of who Parabon nanolabs are.
Yes.
You know, C.C. Moore, you know, has done a lot of work for them. Well, I have a contact that is friends with C.C. Moore and has done some work herself for Parabon. And she contacted them for me, and they told me they would be happy to help with this case, you know, to use some of this DNA that they've got. But they told me that they do not ask law enforcement. Law enforcement has to request their help.
Right.
And our local county department and this state detective have all told me no, they're not going to request their help.
So for anyone
they submitted.
I'm sorry. I was just going to say, so for anyone on that doesn't know what Parabon Labs is, they can take a DNA sample and develop a suspect based on that, even what the suspect might look like based on the DNA sample.
Right. If they have any relatives at all with DNA in the system, they can narrow it down to find out exactly who the murderer was. And they've done that several times. But they keep telling me that they have submitted DNA to their own sources. And they keep telling me that the state crime lab is just so backed up. And I'm sure it is. but they keep telling me I need to just be patient. Well, you know what? I think 34 years is long enough to be patient.
That's like a spit in the face. Be patient. It's been 34 years. Wow.
Right. That's what I think. Every time they tell me that, you have to be patient. Everyone just needs to be patient. And I'm like, okay, so you tell me, when is it okay for us not to be patient anymore? Because my patience has ran thin a long time ago.
Absolutely.
And, you know, and I keep threatening myself to approach this boyfriend. And I haven't. They've asked me not to. It could ruin the case, they said. But I'm like, I've spoke to everybody else that I know speak of. I know that whoever it was that killed Brandy did not put her under that house by themselves. She wasn't killed there. I was told that they think she may have been killed somewhere else and her body was put there. So if that's true, Brandy weighed like 230 pounds when she was killed. It took more than one person to put her body under that house. And I've come right out and asked one of the suspects if he had anything to do with it. And of course he told me no, that he didn't know why everyone thought that, why people kept asking him that. And I told him, I said, well, it was a deputy that told me that. And he said, well, he's a bald-faced liar. So, you know, I haven't gotten anywhere. I mean, I've learned a lot of stuff. But as far as getting an arrest, I don't see it happening anytime real soon. Without, I guess, unless I do something drastic.
Right. Do you know the location of the boyfriend at this point? Like what state he's in?
Yes. I stalk him on Facebook daily.
So earlier, I think it was today or yesterday, you posted a picture on Brandy's Facebook of another unsolved murder. Do you want to mention that?
Well, the boyfriend is suspected of killing 2 other women in another state where he resides now. The one that I posted on Justice for Brandy Hutchins is actually a girl that disappeared in 1994. Her body has never been found. Her purse was found burned on a bridge, but her body has never been found. She was last seen with this boyfriend. And when I say boyfriend, I'm putting it in quotation marks in my mind. She was dating this boyfriend of Brandy's, and he had assaulted her before and threatened to kill her before. The last time she was seen was leaving her parents' house with him. So he's a suspect in that case as well, but there's no evidence left at all in that case either, because the courthouse where all of her files were burned in 2007, destroying all files. So there's not likely anything to happen in that case unless her body is found. The other one, I think, was supposedly a suicide where he was there with her. And that's really all I know about that one.
Are those in different states, like from each other? Are they in different states from each other?
No, those 2 are in the same state.
So really, that could be a potential of 3.
3 women, right? Then that would make him a serial killer,
yes, right?
Yeah. But nobody seems to care enough to... 3 women, right? then that would make him a serial killer,
yes, right?
Yeah. But nobody seems to care enough to, I don't know. I'm very bitter.
Right.
I'm very bitter, you can tell.
That's understandable after all this time.
Right.
So what can we do to bring attention to Brandy's case?
Well, just talk about it. Share the Facebook page. Just anything to keep her name and her face in people's minds. If anybody out there knows anything, please come forward. There is a $5,000 reward for any information for the arrest and conviction of the person or persons who murdered Brandy.
Well, we can certainly do that and hopefully bring enough attention to Brandy's case to where the police feel that it's more of a pressing issue than they feel right now or have felt for the last 34 years.
Right. Yeah, because I know every day they wish that I just quit. I mean, they've asked me to stop posting on Facebook, and I don't intend to do that. I'm going to keep on until I see that they're going to try to do something.
Well, absolutely, you should. You're the voice of Brandy Hutchins right now, and she obviously needs a voice and has needed one for a long time.
Yeah, I just think it's so sad, that she died at such a young age, and they just act like it's no big deal. I just feel so bad for her that nothing's been done, And, I get all these people that say, oh, let her rest. Her spirit can't rest as long as you're trying to find her and, her killer and all this. I don't believe in all that. I just tell you right now, I don't. I don't intend to stop, and I think she wants me to bring attention to this so that her killer can be brought to justice.
Well, hopefully that happens soon. I really appreciate you coming on and joining the live and speaking about Brandy's case, trying to get it out there more. I know Brandy would appreciate the attention that you've brought to her case with everything that you do.
Well, I appreciate you having me on, and being able to get the word, about Brandy out a little more.
Well, I will continue following the Facebook page, and everyone on here, guys, you need to go follow the Facebook page to get more information about Brandy's case, and watch for updates and share that page so that other people can join as well.
Yes, thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Thank you so much for joining us, Julie. I'm going to let you go. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Okay, guys, thank you so much for watching the live. I'm going to be doing this with another case, actually 2 more cases soon, just trying to bring attention to the unsolved cases. Now, Julie, she doesn't really use TikTok that much, so that's why it was a phone call. But the other 2 do use TikTok, so those will likely be they will be on TikTok. But yeah, Brandy's case has been unsolved since 1988. Her boyfriend, who is the main suspect in the case, has never been arrested and is actually the last person to be with 2 different women who have disappeared. Well, she said one died by supposed suicide while the boyfriend was there with her, and then the other one has never been seen since like 1994 in a different state. But yeah, so 3, that makes that person, you know, serial killer status, if he was responsible for those 3 crimes. But the detectives that she talks to, Julie, about Brandy's case, are not responding currently, have not responded to her messages for a while. Jeff Phillips from the Johnson County Prosecutor's Office says there isn't enough evidence, and really no one is doing anything for Brandy Hutchins' case except for her cousin, Julie. And that's really sad, you know, considering Brandy Hutchins was 14 years old when she was murdered. Her body was found under an abandoned house. She was shot in the forehead. So everything around it is just so cold-hearted and cruel. A girl who spent 14 years of her life not being wanted, really, or feeling like an imposition, and then to just lose her life like that. It's so sad, and I hope that justice comes for Brandy soon. She certainly deserves it. If it were my child, I would not rest, definitely, until there was justice. So, like I said, guys, go follow the Facebook page. It's called Justice for Brandy Hutchins. Julie is very active on there, sharing information about Brandy Hutchins' case. There was just recently, I think last week, she said, in the Courier, which is a Russellville newspaper, in-depth article done about Brandy Hutchins' case. Just anything you can do to bring attention to the case so that it puts pressure on Johnson County and the state of Arkansas to do something about this case and stop letting it sit there. It's not fair to let these cases sit there and be unsolved, to keep these families from justice for their lost loved ones who have been murdered. It's just absolutely wrong. It's wrong, and I wouldn't wish it on anyone. So anyway, I will see you guys next time. Thanks for joining the live. I appreciate all of the support. I really, really do. I can't explain to you how much.